Everybody excited to be back? Yeah? For anyone, is this your first time at Concordia, like this semester? Everyone's been here before? Who all here is a freshman? And then the rest are high school students? All right, you wanna tell us where you go to school and what your name is, sir? Yeah.
I'm Carter, and I go to Walter Michigan.
Okay. Everybody go to Walford, right? Okay. So we got Carter. How about you?
You call me
Nani?
Yanni.
Yanni. Okay, Yanni.
Isabel.
Isabel.
I'm Hannah.
Hannah. All right. Yes.
Giovanni.
Giovanni. Emory. All right, like Emory University. All right.
Estrella.
Australia. All right, very nice to meet you all. I'm Dr. Ross. So yeah, welcome to Intro to Psych, or General Psychology as we call it. This will be an exciting class, hopefully you get a lot out of it. You get to learn a lot of stuff, and I can hopefully convince you that psychology is the greatest field that you will be studying in. Who here has taken the psychology course before? Yes, can you tell me a little bit about your course?
The previous one that I took?
Yes.
Well, it was mainly online, but we mainly talked about theories.
Just theories of
Yeah,
psychology.
that's mainly what we talked about.
Okay. Who else is taking a psychology course? Okay. Who can tell me anything they want to tell me about psychology? What do you think psychology is? What does it involve? What is the study of? What do we think we're going to engage in this term? Anybody? All right. So, psychology is the study of many things. One's we're looking at thoughts and how thoughts create feelings and how feelings create behaviors. This is a study really of mental processes, our mental life, how we process our mentality. It's a study of consciousness, right? You're conscious right now, you exist, you're living. It's a study of the unconscious, the subconscious, which is automated processes. So we'll get down to the nitty-gritty of our own existence, your existence. Towards later, we'll talk about why you're going through what you're going through, because we're all going through something. We'll cover psychological disorders, anxiety, PTSD, schizophrenia. We'll cover therapy. We're going to cover a lot of anatomy towards the beginning so we can have an introduction and understand exactly how the brain works, how it processes the rest of the body, and other things, the roots, the history of psychology, right? Let's get a few things out the way. I'll pull up the syllabus so we can take a look at that so you know what to expect. All right. All right, so you can read through all this, but we'll just kind of go over the grading. All right, so your textbook should be already in the bookstore. All right, everyone can see that? All right, so your textbook should be already in the bookstore. All right, right there we got Myers, Exploring Psychology. It should be a 12th edition, I think. You use the 11th. To be honest, if you find an ebook or paperback or something, you can get that as well too. That would work. For the most part, we'll be working off of lectures and slides for the exams. So in terms of exams, we got 4. So we got 4 exams. I wouldn't say they're extremely long, so don't let it dissuade you in any way. They're relatively short, right? I asked for a lot of personal sort of experience related to psychology to make it sort of easy for you. We got journals and exercises. We got 2 of them, right? So we got 2 journals, 1 to 2 pages each. and you're gonna write on anything related to the field of psychology and sort of give your expression on an article or whatever it is you're talking about. Right? Attendance is important, so I want everyone here as much as possible, unless you have an excuse, a valid excuse of some reason. If so, email me ahead of time and let me know. It's a small class, so we want everyone here every class period. So we got a presentation. Those are coming towards the end of the semester, in which case I'll put everybody into groups. Small class, so maybe we'll do this groups of 2, and you'll be given different topics to talk about, right? So the topics I think may actually be on the syllabus, but I'll assign the topics to each group, and you can present maybe about a 20-minute presentation. Then we'll have some Q&A, and that'll be it for that. And then research participation. So the Department of Psychology here, they like people to engage, they like students to engage in research, right? So research could be a focus group, a survey, a questionnaire. The psych lab is actually in Addison Hall on the 2nd floor. Sometimes it is a little bit more intricate. They may have you come in and set you up and answer questions and whatever related to the actual study is. Professor Sundermeyer, Brian Sundermeyer, he's my colleague here. He runs the psychology department. Usually he emails out studies. So you won't have any trouble finding any, because he will usually email it to me, or upload it to Blackboard, or he'll email it directly to students, right? So you'll know exactly what you can participate in. All right, and that's it. That's really it for, in terms of work, what we'll be doing. But we definitely want to be prepared for our exams, so very important that we are here every class so we know what we're talking about. Okay. All right, well, a little bit about myself. Briefly, I was known as an international psychologist, so what's that? I usually go out to various parts of the world and I work with different cultures, right? So I help develop mental health programs, education programs, things working with human rights, cultural exchange, things of that nature. And I help sort of relate the field of Western psychology to other parts of the world, right? So we say, we're kind of studying Western psychology, but I'll try to add on other cultural aspects layered on top. And we'll kind of look at that as we go through the history of psychology so we can understand what we're talking about. So I operate a foundation, a charitable foundation, and previously I just worked in business. So I did international business. I would travel around the world and buy real estate, places South Africa, Peru, all over, stuff like that. And then I came into psychology later on and sort of made my path that way. All right, so let's get into psychological science, our first chapter. Okay. So we think of what is the field of psychology, where does it come from, right? So we say psychology employs empirical approach. What we're trying to do is trying to understand how we make sense of mental processes in a scientific way, right? How do we make scientific knowledge of why you do what you do, why we all do what we do, right? What is the purpose of this consciousness, right? Why do we have disorders? Why do we have issues? What do we do about that, right? So in our field, we're trying to understand behavior, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and all the intricate nuances between them. So we try to do it without misleading or being misled. Sometimes psychology can be very subjective in some way, kind of vague in some aspects, because it's a burgeoning field. You think of, we're still learning about us. We're still trying to figure out the human life, the existence, our condition. Think of as you sit right there, you're alive, and nobody's figured out why. Right? You exist. Nobody has a real clue. We have our own personal opinions, perspectives, beliefs, values. Very true. But we may all disagree on the purpose of it all, right? So we're trying to make sense. In essence, we're thinking of we all live in our own universe, right? So we're thinking maybe philosophically like the universe is in your head, your universe. but maybe we all share a common idea of what that is. We'll kind of talk more about what that is, like some sort of common consciousness. How we're all kind of sharing the same experience, which is different. Right? All right, so what's the attitude we want to have for this? I want you to be curious. Ask me a million questions. Ask me whatever it is you want to ask me. It doesn't matter, right? It could be controversial stuff, just random things you're curious about. Second of all, don't be shy. Who here is an introvert? Tell me why you believe that you're an introvert. Where does it come from?
Because like my parents really, because my parents they don't really like, with my mom, she doesn't have like much like a friend, like a social group besides like her family.
Mm-hmm.
And like my dad is like the same way, he doesn't have much of a social group besides like his family and stuff like that. And I really don't talk to nobody else outside like school. So like my family, stuff like that. So.
Okay. Excellent. So we all got a story, right? We can be aware of it. So we're aware, but we still do it. I'm aware, I'm still doing it. Right? And we can say, well, how did it come to be? We've been conditioned. We're operating on a program. What program do you operate on? Mom and dad's, right? Nothing wrong with that. In the back. How about you in the back? That's right.
For me, it's mainly not wanting to be wrong in front of everybody.
Think about that. Fear. Fear of what? Fear of others. Fear of people we don't even know. People don't probably even matter. We may never see them again after this semester. Did it really matter? Probably not. And so we have to think of like, what's the root? We'll get to like, hey, what are the root causes of your own behavior? Why do you do what you do? Why do you feel what you feel? Why do you feel what you feel? Why do you think what you think? How does your thoughts transfer over into emotions, right? To create all sorts of things. In some essence, we could say anxiety, right? And we'll talk about what anxiety is, but definitely fear is a component of anxiety. It makes you uncomfortable. Like, I don't feel great speaking in front of people. I feel like I might say something stupid. People may not like how I look, may not get me. It just, whatever the case may be. Right? So we think of, maybe we'll talk about ways how to eliminate these things, right? We could try to eliminate introversion, we could eliminate fear. Very possible. I teach another class on behavior assessment, and all it deals with how to alter your behavior, your addictions, compulsions, all these different things. So we'll talk about a little bit more of that. Anxiety is a big one. Who here is stressed out right now? Who here has anxiety in their life in some way, shape, or form? Tell me about your anxieties. Without being, if you don't want to be too specific.
Well, just being like in college too. It's being ready for our future, so it matters a lot.
Think about that. We're concerned about things outside of our control. Like, I'm concerned about the future. I don't control the future, neither do I. It don't matter if I got $1 billion or $10, right? So we have to think about these things a little differently. We say, yeah, I'm in control of what I'll do in college, but the future doesn't exist. The future is in your mind. Maybe there's no real essence of time. Maybe time is an illusion. So the future will never come because all we have is the present, constantly, perpetual present. Right? We want to think deep about these things so that we eliminate them to say, you know what, a lot of stuff is irrational, doesn't make sense. Right? And we want to change our behavior so that we could be more calm about the stuff. Right? Who are anxiety, stress?
We just getting ready for college because it's just high school. I don't even know what's happening in school.
Yeah. And get that too. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. What do you think about it? Whether you have anxiety or not. So does the anxiety benefit you? No. It takes away energy, it drains you out. Right? It's like, oh, it's draining to have anxiety because it's like a cell phone battery. You just bring it. Like, how you gonna charge it up? I don't know, go eat, run, call some friends or something like that. But we'll explore all that. The point is, we all have it. So no one in this class should feel embarrassed, feel bad. No. We all get anxiety. You gotta be here 8 o'clock in the morning and think, I don't have anxiety about doing that? I may not want to, right? Well, I'm doing it because I love to teach. But we all have anxiety. I have 2 small children, anxiety. You got a job, anxiety. You got people depending on you, anxiety. It doesn't matter. It never goes away. But what you can do is change your mind on how to regulate it. Life's about managing, right? It's not about making things disappear. They never disappear. But you gotta manage it. Who else want to tell me about their anxieties or stress? Okay. Okay, so in this class, I want everybody to participate. Don't be shy. There's no reason, right? Ask the questions. This is what I'm here for. I want us to engage in discussions as much as possible about your personal life. You don't have to get too specific, you don't want to, but it helps everybody else learn. Because I'm learning from you, you're learning from me. So I'm not up here just to talk all day. You have your own experiences, you're your own experiment, right? What I can do is give kind of general common knowledge about psychology and what it means, but still, you have your information. And if you really understand that, you say, you probably have a PhD in life. Why? Because you experience it just like everybody else. Right? So I want everybody to engage, be curious, be skeptical, have some humility. This is what a scientific attitude is. Right? We don't want to come off to say, hey, we absolutely know everything. We don't. Many things are theoretical. Right? There's studies to back them up, but we can't for 100% say that everything relates to everybody. Right? But this is why we're in college. Think of this. In essence, you are here for maybe only a couple reasons. On the surface level, you're like, so you get a degree and get a decent job, paying job. Like, I'm here to move on to get a decent paying job. I want to buy a car, a condo, blah, 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 travel. You know, like, that's great. Everybody did that. Go get a job anywhere. Travel, save some money. But you're here, in essence, to contribute something to knowledge. And you can if you want to. So how do you do that? Well, we've got the Mark Zuckerbergs, Facebook, Bill Gates, Microsoft. All these people were in college. They dropped out. Why did they drop out? Because they started a project. They didn't show just to go to class. They were working on something other than school. It's like, here's plan A is school. Plan B is this wonderful company I'm working it on. And where do I get free employees? The other students. I'm gonna link up with people smarter than me. Form a group of 4 or 5, and we're gonna start a company, an app, something, boom, left billionaires. So in essence, you should be thinking like that, right? Instead of just saying, hey, I'm here to get a grade, move on to the next class and graduate. Wait, like everybody, 90%, 95% of people do that. Right? That's not the end of the story. So that's a psychological aspect too. So this is why psychology is so important. You're going to study every other field. It could be engineering, it could be nursing. It still relates to human behavior. This is everything. You go buy Apple iPhones, it's about human behavior, why people want to buy the iPhone, right? Economics, you look at buying stocks, you're like, why the stock tank? People are scared. Human behavior, everything. And most importantly, it deals with you, right? So ultimately, the goal in life should be like to really figure you out, right? And I'll kind of get more into the philosophical aspect of it. Okay, we need some critical thinking, right? We want to examine assumptions, appraise the source, right? So critical thinking. You're in college, you're going to be scholarly. Like, what does it mean to be intelligent, scholarly? People are going to say random things and you're like, hey, where'd you get that source? You might like Google it. You're like, Google's not really a source, right? Google's a search engine. What's the source? I don't know, somebody on Facebook said it. Great. How do you know it's accurate? I don't know. So we're just going to spew a bunch of misinformation. And for the most part, this is what the common folk do, right? But here in college, you want to say, you know what? I need to validate the source. I gotta make sure it's accurate. Make sure it's backed up by a few things, a few sources which are credible. Can't just be your cousin or something like that, right? People who are actually doing studies and research, we say that's credibility, right? Can't just be anything, anywhere. So in your mind, for any other class moving forward, you're always thinking of, let me reference, right? What's the citation? What's the source of what I'm saying? Examine assumptions, right? We all assume, we all just talk casually about things, but we always want to question the assumptions. Like, why do you assume that, right? Or maybe your assumptions could be valid. You say, yeah, I assume that because of my life experience, this has been the case. I can't argue that, right? You're your own researcher, right? Your experience, your life experience is research. It's your own research. But does it tell the whole story? No, sometimes it becomes generalized, right? Discern hidden biases. Who's the worst president of all time? Who's the best president of all time? Who's your favorite basketball team? Hey, is your race the best? Is your sex and gender the best? Right? Oh, your religion got it right. We're all biased, right? We're biased to who we are, and what we believe, and what we value. You like the Bulls because you're in Chicago. Whoop-de-doo. People in New York like the Knicks because they're in New York. And the day you're like, well, that's a bias, right? Like what you like. For whatever reason, you concoct it in your brain to like it. So we have to think like, well, with all these biases, when you think about something, are you questioning yourself to say, man, am I biased? Am I judging people because I'm not bad? Right? Think about that. And then other people try to project those same biases on you, or try to get you to have those biases about others. You're like, wait. Yeah, I know you're family, but you're a little biased. I don't know if I can believe you that much. Right? That is sound thinking. Evaluate evidence, right? Show the evidence. Assess conclusions. What's the conclusions? Let's look at them. What do we learn? What are the major takeaways about whatever it is you learn? All right, so how does psychology come to be? Well, psychology comes from philosophy, primarily ancient philosophers. It could be Egyptian, it could be Greek, it doesn't matter, right? But in essence, these ancient philosophers thought like, why are we here? First question is, what is this? They're like, what is what? This. You're here. Why? You're like, I'm here to get a job and go to school. Says who? Sounds like all human inventions to me. Somebody built the school, had an idea of classes. You ate it up. You're like, yeah, this is what we do. Right? Do as the Romans do. But serious thinking goes beyond that. It's kind of like, interesting. We're alive. We're breathing. Why? Right? What is the role we play in this existence? Why does this stuff matter? Think of how many things matter to you so much. But if you stop and think about it, you're like, it's absolutely pointless in the grand scheme of things, right? So psychology comes from philosophy, philosophical ideas about the nature of human behavior, existence, all sorts of things. Wundt started the first psychological laboratory. He wanted to study sort of in a way of physics, right? Think of ancient history, doesn't have the technology that we have today. Two people talking, looking at behavior, people killing each other, kings and queens, peasants, and you kind of like, what is going on? Why does this matter? We're looking at physical things, rocks, trees, flowers, and try to relate them to the human mind. They're like, okay, atomic structures, things have atoms, right? Is the mind and thoughts atoms just moving around like electrons or something like that? These is what Wundt saw. And then some of the first schools of thought, Tickner studied structuralism, technique of introspection. Introspection is just basically thoughts about thoughts, right? Thinking about feelings, emotions. And then William James, who was influenced by Darwin, looked at functionalism, adaptive thinking, right? How does our mind adapt to the environment? In ecology, you're looking at how the environment changes you and how you change the environment. So if we use this classroom, for example, you say, whoa, how does this classroom, which is an environment, changes you? It does change you, because you're in it. This is what we're made for. We're made to be changed through the environment. But you also are changing this environment too. You can't see it. You might not be able to feel it, but it exists. And how do we know it exists? We have all sort of imaging techniques, radiant field techniques. We can know that human beings actually emit some sort of source of energy maybe 6 feet away. So think about it. You really do have some sort of like force field around you. You just don't know. You radiate almost like an antenna, right? And we could see these through different techniques of imaging. So you have a field around you, and it has a purpose. It's there to interact with the environment. People, the chair, the table, you're feeling things, right? You're not maybe aware of it. You're like, I can't really feel it, right? If you stop and maybe really focus, you might be able to, right? So that's what kind of adaptive thinking led to. Some of the first women in psychology, you got Whitney Calkins pioneering memory research. She was the first APA president. APA is the American Psychological Association. It's the big association for all psychologists. And then Floyd Washburn, she was the first female PhD. She synthesized animal behavior with the animal mind in 1908. So she primarily worked with animals. And then beyond that, we have major forces. So we say psychology really took shape between the 1920s and 60s. So really the meat of psychology happened around that time. Even a little bit before there, people like Nietzsche. Anyone ever heard of the philosopher Nietzsche? Friedrich Nietzsche? Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, you know, they kind of studied the mind a lot in the sense of making it more of a scientific approach. But psychology as a science, right, as an actual field of science, really took shape between the 1920s and 60s, right? We started with behaviorism, and behavior study scientifically defined, conditioned, observed, and measured. So we tried to think of ways, how do we measure behavior? Like, what are the terms we're going to use? What are the metrics we can use about people's behaviors? Right? How do we define things? What are we observing? And Watson and Rayner championed scientific study of behavior with Little Albert, Fear Can Be Learned. And we'll look at that. There's a video about Little Albert, right? Basically talking about conditioning. How, as children, we are conditioned for all sort of types of behavior, right? Because that is your guide. Your parents are your guide. And so as we get more into Freud, who here is familiar with Freud, you know, Freud really believes that anything you're going through, for the most part, is childhood related, right? All your fears and anxiety deals with mom and dad, even beyond your memory, which usually is about, it's hard to remember things less than 3 years old. Just because you don't remember don't mean it doesn't impact you, right? We'll understand why that is. All right, Freud. All right, Freud is the grandfather of all psychology. Freud was not a psychologist, he was a medical doctor. But he is the one who took psychology extremely far in terms of a scientific field to be studied. He really popularized it, right? So Freud emphasized ways that the unconscious mind and childhood experience affect behavior. Freud says this: you have two minds, conscious, unconscious. Right, well, what's the unconscious? The unconscious is automatic things that you've done so long, you no longer expend any energy of it. No more mental energy is required. Very little mental energy is required. Like, such as what? Like, you drive, When you drive, do you think about driving? Are you cruising on the highway? No. It's automatic. There's very little thinking going there, unless somebody like jump in front of you or something. Then you're conscious again, right? But for the most part, maybe 90% of that driving is completely another mind. It's not your conscious mind. It's your automatic mind, your subconscious. And Freud says whatever happens to you for a prolonged period of time becomes part of that subconscious, becomes who you are. And now it becomes behavior that you can't control. Now you say, why do I do the things I do for the most part? It's become natural to you. It's part of your unconscious mind. It's completely automatic now. It's just like, are you thinking about breathing right now? Are you thinking about your heart beating right now? When you walk, do you think about walking? So we say, no. There's automatic processes. There's another you. In essence, there's another you. The you that's just completely automatic. And then there's that little tiny part of you that say, I'm gonna make a choice and decision to do something, right? So think of this. If you get the urge, you're like, I'm bored, let me look at my phone. I'm bored, let me look at my laptop. Let me click my pen, let me tap my feet, let me shake my leg, let me look here, look there. You're like, well, why do you do that? I'm not thinking about that. I just do it. It's automatic. It's unconscious. And that deals with anxiety. Because you say boredom is anxiety. We'll understand why. He says we want to get to the 50-yard line, a straight line, which is homeostasis, which is just pure calm. Very hard to do, right? Because everything is stimulated. We're all stimulated by something, right? So even going down boredom, anxiety, depression, below the 50-yard line, anxiety, right? Stress. And your body automatically corrects. It's like, yo, we're bored. Let's do something to make it up bored. You're automatically reacting. You're not thinking about it, right? So you pick up the phone, look at it, text them. You probably didn't even think about it at all. It's just become part of who you are. It's a natural process. For all of us now. You know, we think with all the phones, like it's just natural, right? You just keep looking, you see notifications, blah, blah, blah. So yes, so Freud believes that unconscious mind is where the problem is. And so how do you change your behavior? You gotta dig really, really, really deep through psychoanalysis, and we'll talk about that more. And we'll talk about the stages of childhood that Freud talks about that in essence kind of leads us on this whole trajectory. Like really deep stuff, sexual stuff, perverted stuff, serial killers, I mean, whatever it is. Freud says it relates back to childhood, right? And then we have B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner is more of a behaviorist. Well, B.F. Skinner thinks that, you know what? It is a little bit different than Freud, but kind of the same. Skinner thinks that we can essentially condition everybody, right? We could take a baby and make a baby a lawyer. Take a baby, make him a doctor, make him an astronaut, make him a serial killer, if that's what we want to do. Because he believed that the human beings are just almost like rats, right? You can navigate them towards their behavior. By what? Reinforcements. Hey, here's a job, we can give you some money and show up tomorrow? Yeah. Right? Oh, but we need you to do this too. I'll do that. Right? You know, let's take away the money. The behavior can be altered whether you're being reinforced or something taken away, right? Your behavior is being altered here too. You're here for reinforcement. What's the reinforcement? I don't know. Maybe you want to feel great about yourself, get a degree. Personal achievement is a reinforcement, right? Getting an A is a reinforcement. Like, let me strive for that A. My behavior, act. I gotta have behavior towards it, right? And then we think of the ideal. We're like, why are we doing all this? So we can be some ideal person in our mind in the future. Whoever we think we're going to be, that's what we're striving for, right? And we'll do whatever it is depending on the reinforcements, what we're being given to do the things in order to achieve that outcome. So it gets really interesting. Any questions so far? Nothing about Freud? All right, and then beyond that, we get things a little bit, you know, some people say, hey, Freud, you're a little bit too extreme. Because Freud says really everything kind of goes now, it's about two components. Freud says basically all of your behavior is primarily geared towards sex and competition. He says all human behavior, and not many people, that's a pretty valid argument. You're literally born to procreate, to keep the species going, just like ants, bees, whatever, right? But with this conscious mind, Freud was like, no, let me make a choice, and I'm not gonna do that, even though nature, right? Nature says, here's the program, this is what you're supposed to do. Make another one so we got a few more billion people, right? In essence, that's the fundamental reason. But since we're a little bit different, we got this, what we call prefrontal cortex, makes us a little bit different than the other animals. We're kind of like, no, we'll create societies and achievements and things and entertainment and choices, and we won't do this stuff. We're not gonna always do what nature tells us to do. We might do something that we want to do, which is called ego. So we have an ego. So screw that, I'm doing what I want to do, right? But it doesn't take away the natural part, because the natural part is in essence automatic. You still are geared towards having that subconscious feeling of reproduction, right? In competition. We all trying to compete because we have the ego. So with that ego, it's itself, it's me. You say me, right? Me relative to what? To other people. So we're all competing. Even if we don't think we are, we're all competing to strive to get above others in some way. Even though we believe we're very nice people and generous and charitable and loving, it does not take away from that internal mechanism. All right, but some people argue to get, what time is it? What's the accurate time?
48.
All right, let me just wrap this up and we can go. All right, some people argue against Freud and say, hey, you know, Freud is too extreme. It's not just all about sex and aggression, man. Like, come on. Just like, you know what? It's about human growth. That we're all trying to be ideal. We are trying to strive towards ideal self. Married, kids, awesome car, fame, fortune, going viral on the internet, content creators, government officials, professors, right? All sorts of things. We're all trying to strive to finally say, I finally did it, right? But it never really, no matter even when you get there, you never know that, right? You always want more, right? Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Any questions before we go? All right, so take a look at the syllabus one more time, you know, so you're up to speed on what's required, any assignments. The lectures are gonna try to make them as interesting as possible. We'll get videos, maybe we'll do some sort of group interactions, keep things interesting. I know it's early in the morning, so I know people are not fully awake, but I'll try to do my best to keep you awake and not fall asleep. Any questions before we go? All right, everyone, have a great day. See you